here's the thing. I don't know if you guys know enough about me to understand that I love this platform called LinkedIn. But the only other person that I know that kind of knows as much as me about that platform is Avi. But one of the things that he's taught me, and literally where I actually get the majority of my prospecting that I teach, when I teach and go in and do consulting about LinkedIn and about how to prospect and what tools to use, I actually lean heavily on Avi as a consultant for me personally. Please welcome Avi Kumar to the stage.
Let's go back 4 years. Now we're getting into some real actual numbers and dates. This is the article from Inc., June 2nd, 2016. Just going through Inc. magazine, I read this article that, hey, LinkedIn is great and some people are using it in certain ways where LinkedIn does not allow, and really getting to people and connecting and selling things. Again, I want to emphasize this, 4 years is a long time back. Nowadays, everybody, including Marcus, talks about LinkedIn, right? Everybody. That time, people had not discovered that much of a LinkedIn. People were on LinkedIn, but it was like, yeah, it's yet another social network which doesn't do anything. Last year or so, we have all heard about it, that how great it is. And so after reading the article, I said, basically what article was talking about is that if you visit people's profiles, they get to know. LinkedIn is one of the rare social networks which actually tells you who visited your profile. Even if you don't have a premium service, it tells you the top 3 or 4. If you have a premium service, you can actually look at everybody who looked at you. I don't know of any other social network which does that. And there is a side effect of that we are all vain. If somebody looks at your profile, you're curious, who is this person? And you want to look back. And if they look back, immediately you have opportunity to be in front of them. So it's like advertising. So the takeaway here was very simple. Just go and visit the profiles. Log in on LinkedIn and go and visit the profiles of people you're interested in. Some of them might get in touch with you. Of course, for this to work correctly, you got to have your profile set in such a way that it is interesting. It talks about what you do. Those are the things I'm not going to talk about today. Why? Because that's required, prerequisite to do this, but it is a little bit subjective. Again, I'm an engineer by training. Subjective, I leave it to somebody because it can be argued many times, this headline versus other. Of course, it can be tested with A/B testing. And the data we will show, data we have clearly points out headline really matters. So do work on those subjective things. I'm going to focus about pure objective things. If you visit people's profiles, some of them will visit you back. Average, the numbers are, these are working with thousands of profiles now, 3 to 6% people will actually visit you back. Now let's talk about LinkedIn prospecting. Marketing is nothing else but traffic and conversion. There's nothing more to everything is about getting traffic and converting. So it's a great way to break up things. It's a great way to look at your marketing, that what part you're doing for traffic and how you're converting. I'm going to mainly focus on traffic. I already gave you guys one source of traffic, which is just visit people. If you visit people's profile, and we'll talk about technicals there, the issues you'll run into when you do that. But traffic is what I'm going to focus almost everything. So we believe that the only metrics which matters on LinkedIn is how many of your prospects actually look at your profile, right? And that's in a profile uses the term LinkedIn. LinkedIn calls this. That is the number one metric. It's easily accessible. There are many other metrics. Our recommendation is ignore all that. Just look at this number. Because this number is like website traffic. Number one metric on a website is traffic to the website. This is exactly that. That's the first thing you got to start with before you talk about engagement and everything. So that's the number one metric. The second one is the kind of the engagement metric in some ways, that when you send a message or how many are sending you a message. Those are the only things you should focus on. So now let's talk about typical LinkedIn user. So a typical LinkedIn user, and typically when they have less than one visit a day, 30 visits a month. So that's really not much of a traffic, right? It's just you have a profile, but nothing has happened. The second one is, this one is, of course, propagated by most of us marketers. The only way to grow engagement is you got to post, and you got to engage, you got to like posts. Man, who has time for that? And this is a standard problem in social media, right? To be engaging, you got to post, you got to come up, you got to be creative, you got to do all those things. It's very hard to do. So again, if you focus instead on purely mechanical means of building traffic, you will get enough traffic that it beats this other aspect of posting. And I'll show you with actual data. She started with us very recently. She's an author, she's a CEO, started with 2,000 plus connections, is an active blogger, quite active on social media. Her company is Brazen. Somebody like her, unlike an average typical user, has 120 views, plus 3-4 views per month. In 6 weeks' time, using purely mechanical means, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So here's the actual data. 10x growth in 6 weeks' time by not changing any posting or anything. And she has 43% growth in the actual number of connections. We are talking about all these connections are targeted, prospected connections. The connections she's growing are the people she wants to connect with. In her case specifically, I have complete permission from her so I can speak to this. She's going for second round of funding. All these connections are in VC community. And the other thing I'm happy to report is third week, she got 3 meetings. By third week, she got 3 meetings with VCs, 1 she might close with, just out of doing this prospecting system. Here's a profile. Let's talk about, we picked a standard CEO, but maybe somebody, let's pick somebody who's kind of is much more of a marketer, is post all the time, speaks at a lot of conferences. So it works for people who are on basic level, and it works for somebody who's very, very active. And I do want to take some time to explain what happens with those, why the up and down of the curve on there. So really what happens is when you visit other people's profiles, you can visit again and again people you're interested in. After a while, if you're visiting the same 30,000, most have seen you. So look back will start dropping. So if you are hyper-targeted, then number of views you get back will drop. So that is the time to broaden and change who you're visiting. That's where you see those ups and downs. They have rules for the community that certain rules are not published. I wish they had published those rules. That's one of the pet peeves I have against LinkedIn is they don't publish every rule. I think they're worried about hackers. Like Google doesn't publish all the rules for SEO, something similar maybe. But they don't publish some rules, but with trial and error, you can find out those rules. For example, you cannot, if you visit more than 1,200 profiles in a day, you will be blocked. They don't publish this anywhere. Used to be when we started 4 years back, the number was 800. But you can send 100 connections per day, but the reality is if you send 100, most likely you will eventually get blocked, even though you're following the rules. So what we found is by trial and error, that up to 80, 75, 80 is a good number. Don't fall into that trap of trying to use something to break LinkedIn. Because if you do, it's LinkedIn. You will be found. Now the point I want to come to is that I talked about famous people, CEOs. Many of you might be wondering, I'm not much on LinkedIn. My profile has hardly 150 connections or something. It's not going to work for me. So let's talk about somebody else, Catherine Wood. She started with 0. Nobody on LinkedIn. Look at her numbers. 3,200 views per month. Many times when you start up a small business, you don't get that many views per month on your website till you spend money. So it works for Catherine, and look at her connections in 10 months' time. 0 to 9,000. Few things are in other courses, which you can already learn from that, hey, you need a good headshot, you need to add a banner, this cannot be emphasized enough. Your headline is not same as your title at your company. If I change my headline to CEO at Kuware Inc., who the heck cares or knows what is Kuware Inc.? Okay. Then other is, of course, use Sales Navigator. It's a tool by LinkedIn, which allows you to do filtering for the prospects. That is the tool which you use to find out who you want to go after. CEOs, company size, and other part is, don't forget the Boolean. The Boolean is very, very powerful here You can use a lot of and or conditions to really reach out to the right people in search. Just visit profiles of people you're interested in, what you find there. If you just did that and then send invites out to other people. If you just do that, you will do great, and you'll get connections back, and you'll have communications going. So it's not hard at all. Do not go more than 1,200. I would recommend not going exactly 1,200 every day either. You cannot view in each search bucket cannot be larger than 1,000. So and don't send more than 80 invitations. This next one is important and not obvious. So when you send a LinkedIn invitation to other people, and if hopefully they'll accept it, but not everyone will, because of course you're prospecting, so you're reaching out to some people you don't know. If they say to LinkedIn, I don't know this person, that's considered as spam. If LinkedIn sees that for 4 or 5 people in a short duration, they will ban you. The way they ban is they will ask you to enter the email address for the next connection. The ban usually lasts between 8 to 10 days. Then you'll be taken off the ban, and then you can start again. So one of the reasons people get annoyed is LinkedIn keeps sending them these emails telling them, hey, you have this connection request pending. After some time, they get tired of it. We found is the sweet spot is 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, just withdraw your request. If you do that, you're not bothering them, because if they're going to join, they will join. By the way, most activity on LinkedIn happens within 24 to 48 hours. So don't keep any invitations pending. This last one is just for safety. LinkedIn does keep changing rules in many ways all the time, including access to your own contacts. Used to be just 6 months back, you could just go and say, download my contact information, and they'll give you their email address and everything. They quietly, without announcing, changed the privacy settings. So the privacy settings now, by default, are everybody's privacy setting, when they changed it, by default is set to do not allow bulk download. If you really want to go and do this yourself or set it up as a service, this is what I recommend. And this is what we do. Get a dedicated Windows or Linux machine, it can be a virtual machine, and log in there. Even if you want to do it for yourself, do it this way. Because the big part is LinkedIn has limitations what you can do per day, which means every day you're not doing it, you're not doing enough. The reason the numbers you saw we are able to get is we do this 24/7. We don't work 24/7, but we do this every day within LinkedIn's limits. There is no day goes by where for our clients or our own profiles, we do not visit the maximum allowed or close to maximum allowed. We visit usually 1,000, not 1,200. Don't want to be too greedy. Guys, do it, use it. In our industry, for marketing, it works amazingly well because the market is big. Chris is right. Some specialized industries, it's harder. You have to super target. Everybody needs marketing.